Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Divorce Coach Diaries. So, today I want to talk about something that seems to come up over and over again for my clients. That is our default reaction or programming to just believe and take on stories that are offered to us. Sometimes those stories come from outside, sometimes they come from a lack of confidence or self judgment, even. But we as humans tend to just believe them as truth and as fact. And a lot of these stories do not serve us. And we tend to take on these stories, opinions, thoughts, beliefs without even questioning them, especially when they come from certain sources. So, I want to untangle that a little bit and pick it apart and see what the possibilities are instead. So, I want to start by telling you a quick experience that happened to me recently. I was speaking with someone, and this person was telling me about a TED Talk that they had watched recently. And basically, the idea of this talk was that kids raised by single moms have the same consequences, choices, life experiences as kids who don't have any parents at all. Now, when I heard this story, it was so easy for me to just discard and not take it on because I have been practicing this for a long time. But you can imagine that there will be a lot of people who would hear that and immediately feel terrible about themselves and about their situation. They might think something like, oh my gosh, this person is right. I made a horrible mistake. My kids are doomed. Or she's right. Without a dad in the home, my kids might as well not have anyone at all. Fathers are so important that I'm useless without one. And let me be clear, I am not saying that having two parents that are both healthy and mature and committed to their family is not the ideal situation for children. I think most of us know that for so many reasons, it is ideal to have two parents in the home. But that is not the reality for almost all of my clients and a lot of people in the world, myself included. I am a full time single mom of three kids, and it does not serve me. It is so unhelpful for me to take the story on that because there is not a father in my kids' home, that they're exactly the same as if they were orphans. That is so unhelpful and poisonous to my life. So, I am not willing to take that on. And when this person said that to me, I kind of laughed and I said, oh, yeah, that is not my experience. And it's certainly not going to be my kids. And it wasn't even worth it to me to debate or really get into anything because I don't believe that that's true at all. And if this other person wants to believe that, it's totally fine with me. So, maybe you have some sort of a story in your mind that came either from an outside source or you built it yourself based on your experiences. Maybe your stories sound something like, he left because I wasn't enough, or I always pick the wrong person, or if I was stronger, this wouldn't hurt so much. So, again, these stories are optional, my friends. Just because you are in the habit of thinking it does not mean it's a fact. And a lot of times, the more that we think something, the more we prove it true. Our brain's job is to be right. And our brain's job wants to protect us. And a lot of these stories start out as protection or as trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. And these stories, we tell ourselves things that make sense of who we are or what we deserve or what other people think or why things happen. But just because it feels like it's true, it doesn't mean it is. It is not a fact, my friend, that you always pick the wrong partner. It is not a fact that your partner left because you weren't enough. Or maybe you feel the opposite. Maybe you feel like my partner left because I'm too much. But these are stories that make us feel small and weak and stuck and like the victim of our lives. And that is just so unhelpful. So, how can we tell if a story isn't serving us? Usually it's pretty obvious. Maybe it makes you feel a pit in your stomach or just a heaviness or hopeless or shame, even. When you think this, what do you feel in your body? Does it feel tight, heavy? Does your heart start beating faster? Or do you just feel like you can't get out of bed? Or are you ragey and angry? Sometimes we want to hang on to some of those feelings and they propel us into action, but sometimes that isn't the case. And so we're going to talk about the times when that isn't the case and where these stories that are just swirling around in our minds just aren't helping. So you get to decide which thoughts or stories you keep. And I like to think about it like this. Let's say we're at a cocktail party, and you know how it is, where there are servers walking around with drinks, appetizers, desserts, snacks, those types of things, and they just walk around with trays and they offer them to you. And it is not dramatic, or we don't make it mean anything about us if we don't like shrimp cocktail. And so we just say, "Oh, no, thank you." And they move on and it's not a problem. So I want you to imagine that these stories are exactly like that. We get to choose if we take it on or if we just say, "No, thank you." And we either move away or the story, the tray moves away and moves on. It's not a problem. Did you know you are allowed to do this? You are allowed to just say, "No, thank you," to anything that doesn't serve you. Now, I know that there are some sources that when you hear these stories from, these ideas, sometimes they're even really well intentioned, but they're just still not helpful. And sometimes they come from people who we really respect. And that is often when it's the most challenging to not take it on. Or maybe even this story is offered to you by someone that you really respect, and it's the same story that you already have inside of yourself. And so it feels doubly true. It's going to take practice, but it still is possible to untangle that and not take it on. So, what do? The first step is to just notice it. Notice consciously and on purpose that this is a story. It's not a fact. And because it's a story, it means it is up for grabs. We get to be the one to decide what we make that story mean. That story about the TED Talk that I spoke about a few minutes ago, that doesn't mean anything about me. And it certainly doesn't mean anything about my kids or what their lives are going to be like. I choose to believe that my kids are going to be okay. They're going to be better than okay. They're going to have amazing lives, and they are in exactly the life experience that they are supposed to be in. And this sometimes is challenging for me to believe, but I work on believing it because I want to believe it. And why do I want to believe that? Because it's the reality. My kids' lives are how they are. And so it's helpful for me to believe that this is how it's meant to be and that this is the life experience that is going to make them into the people that they are meant to be. If my kids were meant to have two parents in their home right now, they would have that. And I don't have to know why everything happens the way that it does. I just get to believe that things are how they are meant to be. So you can notice a story and not believe it or not take it on. We can notice it when it comes up for us, like, oh, there it comes again, the I'm too much story or I'm not enough. And then you pause and you ask yourself, is this helping me or is it hurting me? Or is this serving me or is it keeping me stuck? And you get to decide what to do with that story. You can simply say, oh, no, thank you, not today. Or you can decide to reframe it. Sometimes that's really helpful. Instead of a story like, I failed at being married, maybe it's that relationship was only meant to last exactly as long as it did. We both learned what we needed to learn, and now we get to move on. I grew and learned exactly what I needed to move into the next version of myself. Now, some of those reframes might not feel believable to you right now, and that's okay. I just want to suggest things or offer them to you that maybe at some point will feel believable. So when you stop believing unhelpful stories, you create space for something different. Letting those go doesn't mean that we live in denial or that we just have our head in the sand all the time. It just means that we choose on purpose what we are going to let into our mind and into our body. And once you realize that these stories are optional, you drop the tug of war rope. You stop fighting about what is and what has been, and you start choosing on purpose what you want moving forward. So, this is what I have for you today, my friends. Try it on. Let me know what you think. And if you have a specific story that is just so deeply stuck into your brain and into your body and into your life that it feels like it is a fact, and yet there is a part of you that thinks, oh, I wish I could let go of this. I just can't. I don't know how. Come and talk to me. Let's meet together and let me help you. I promise I can help you. So I help people for free on Tuesdays. Come and find me, megthedivorcecoach.com/free coaching. And that's where you'll find my calendar. Sign up for a free session and let me help you untangle these stories that are just keeping you small and stuck and feeling weak and like the victim. This is optional. It is not how you have to live forever. And I want to help you, and it is worth it. So follow me, come and find me, book a spot. I can't wait to meet you. Have a wonderful week.